Now we're going to speak to the man that broke this big news today. The San Antonio Express News' Spurs beat writer, Jabari Young. Jabari, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's get right into it. It's from my understanding that NBA sources called you about Kawhi's news. How did it all go down?
You know, it's just funny. I've been working on this all week, and as I reported earlier in the week, I felt that, those two sides were going to get together and hopefully meet within the coming days to kind of sit down and talk about the issues that and concerns that maybe Kawhi has and maybe the team has and kind of hash it out. But it's the NBA and how things change even if in 24 hours. And so, they made it known to me that, Kawhi wants to be traded and that he wants out of San Antonio at this point. I still think that Greg Popovich is going to try to get into a room with him and try to convince him otherwise. But right now, that seems to be the deal, that number two does not want to be in a silver and black uniform any longer.
It seemed like a lot of this drama started after Kawhi's injury, put him on the bench last season, and, created a good distance between the organization and him from that period on. How much did that play a factor in his decision, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's that at that time that a lot of trust got, violated. A lot of things were said. When you have a guy being questioned because he's injured about when he's going to return, and then he comes back for 9 games and he still is not feeling right. And then, you have the head coach and Greg Popovich, when he's being asked about him, he says, you ask Kawhi and his group and his represent. And I think it's those little small words, little things that Tony Parker said about his injury being 100 times worse. And I know that was taken a little bit out of context, but it still rubbed Kawhi and his representatives the wrong way. And so I think that's where a lot of it happened. Was the injury diagnosed correctly? And if the Spurs did have a problem with him getting a second opinion and going to New York to do so. So a lot of that, that definitely played a part of it, a big part of it. But then it's just, like I said, I think it's at a point now where they feel, hey, we can't resurrect this. The best thing for us to do and the best thing for you guys to do is to trade us, and we'll go our separate ways.
So, Jabari, let's say this trade does go through. How does that affect the 2 years remaining on his deal?
Well, he has, he signed that $94 million, dollar to 5 year, $94 million contract back in 2015. So the way it's going to unfold is this. Listen, he has 2 years remaining. He has obviously 1 year that he has to honor, and then after next season, he can then not opt in to his player option for next season, and then talking about the 2019-2020 season. So if he opts in, or if he does not opt in, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. So what that is that if you trade him, you have to make sure that wherever you're trading him to, that he wants to re-up there. Now, you don't have to do that. The Spurs are in control because he owes them a year on their deal. So you go into next season or you go into next summer and you haven't traded him and things are still the way that they are, then he opts out or he doesn't opt in. He becomes a free agent. You lose him for nothing. If you decide to trade him, then he then can do the same thing to wherever team he goes to. So the best move, if you're the Spurs, to me, I feel like you trade him to a destination that he has on a list, or if he provides you with a few teams that he does want to go to, and then that way everybody's happy. You get a good package and they get a superstar two-way player. But as of right now, like I said, he's still under contract for at least 1 more year heading into next summer.
Any insight as to where that destination might be? Any chance it could be back home in LA?
Yeah, everybody's speculating that. I mean, that seems to be at the top of the list. I know the Philadelphia 76ers might put their hat in. I know national reports are saying the Boston Celtics could be a player. But, if you're the Los Angeles Lakers and you know that Kawhi wants to come there, you call up the Spurs and say, hey, listen, pick anybody on our team that you want. Pick 2 players, pick 3. We will make it happen because they're trying to form another super team. And if you're talking about a LeBron James or Paul George joining Kawhi Leonard in LA, you don't need Brandon Ingram. You don't need Kyle Kuzma. You don't need them draft picks. Come up off those. Send them to San Antonio and make the deal. But that's if the Spurs want to go that way, because at this point, I'm sure if they feel like they have to trade him, they don't care about where they trade him. They want to make sure that they get the best package. And right now, it seems a team like Boston, a team like the Lakers, they have pretty young, up-and-coming players that the Spurs can work with.
Jabari, thank you so much again for joining us. Always a pleasure, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the San Antonio Express News as this story unfolds.
You're watching Sports2Nite, San Antonio's only nightly 30-minute sportscast with exclusive sports coverage you won't find anywhere else.